Hi Kashvi, welcome to our channel once again.
Thank you so much for having me again, and I'm pretty excited to be here.
So, tell us about yourself. First of all, introduce yourself.
A little about me. My name is Kashvi. I just completed my engineering in mathematics and computing from Delhi Technological University, New Delhi, and I'm an incoming Ph.D. student at University of Michigan in applied mathematics, and I am usually working on math, I would say, but other than work part, I like to read books and I like to dance. I'm trained in Indian classical, and I like to make friends. So if any of you wants to connect with me after the session, you can always ping me on LinkedIn and I will reply to you.
If someone is gonna ask you about the dancing tips, would you provide that?
Sure. I would love to. I love talking about dance to people.
Okay. So you are quite modest about your introduction. You have not mentioned some of your achievements, like your internship and everything, even your PhD as well.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, yeah.
Kashvi got PhD admission in University of Michigan directly after the graduation. So that's why she is here. The complete interview about how to apply for PhD just after the B.Tech, or you can even have the knowledge about how to apply for masters and PhD. Another video link is in description, so you can go to the link and try to find out all the information you need. And this video is only about the GRE only, so we are going to talk about the how to prepare for GRE and how Kashvi herself got 325 score in GRE, so that's quite good score. So that's why she's gonna give you some tips about the GRE, and she will also discuss how to prepare for GRE for free, all the free resources, as she also prepared for free only. So she can give you the best information available right now. So
You said in my introduction, I'm mostly active on LinkedIn. So I've just added the link if someone wants to connect with me, and you can just type my name and you will find me. And I have a growing blog wherein I write about my experiences, as you said, about my internships and stuff. And I am thinking of writing about math too. So you can check that out too. So yeah,
you can
now we can start.
the link of her LinkedIn as well as her blog is in description as well. So first thing, what is the pattern of GRE?
Oh, yeah. So before everything, as you mentioned already, but I thought to give out my scores, put it out there just so, people find me credible and not think that why are they listening to me. So my GRE general score was 325 out of 340, and this is the breakdown as per section. And my TOEFL score was 116 out of 120, and this is the breakdown as per section, and both of these scores were in my first attempts. So going back to the question of Vyomesh, the GRE general is basically divided into three sections. One is analytical writing section, which basically has two essays, and you will easily find what they're expecting out of you in both of these essays in the official guides that we are going to talk about further. And so this is not like what we have read in our school, the writing sections that we have read. This is something different. This is more, I would say, involved and more demanding, and you'll only get 30 minutes to write one essay. So I would suggest you to practice this section thoroughly, even if you are confident with your writing. Next section is the verbal reasoning section. So this has, there are two sections on verbal reasoning with 20 questions per section. This mostly is, I guess, the most daunting part for Indian students, because we tend to lose our touch with English as we move on to with our careers. So this was the most daunting part for me as well. And you need to know a lot of vocabulary. You need to know a lot of reasoning in language. and all of that. We'll talk in more detail about these sections. Then there is quantitative reasoning, which is again, I would say, at least for us, it is around the math that we have read till our 12th standards. And this is going to be a pretty okay section for you guys. But then again, they test you mostly on your speed and accuracy. And this has to be combined with the pressure that you handle in the test. So you need a lot of practice for this too. Now, there are two separate sections after these 4 sections that you receive. So there is either an unscored section or a research section, and both of these would be unscored, which means that their score would not be added to your entire score. But then you don't know which section out of the 5 sections is unscored, so you have to attempt all those 5 sections equally good. And I would just say that this is not something that you have to ponder upon much. You just have to prepare for your test and give practice tests as per you get it in the actual test, and I think you should be good. So going to the verbal reasoning and quantitative reasoning tests, there are some typical type of questions that are usually put out in the tests. So the verbal reasoning has reading comprehension, text completion, and sentence equivalence. The reading comprehension is basically, we get long and long paragraphs of comprehensions, and then we have to answer questions on the basis of that. These are also, I would say, very different from what we have read till in our high school, because these are very involved, and this has a nice, I would say, demanding sort of a structure in the entire comprehension. So you'll need a lot of focus, and you will need a lot of concentration to go about the comprehension and then pick up answers for your questions after that. So you will need some sort of practice for this. And also for the GRE aspirants there, I would say that I have personally noticed patterns in their questions for reading comprehension. So you're given a comprehension, and there are certain pattern of questions that they usually ask. So you should definitely notice that too while you're practicing. Then there is text completion, wherein you have to fill in the phrases in paragraph sort of a thing. So this again requires a lot of logical reasoning in your language. You should understand what goes where and what is actually, comprehensible in what paragraph. Then in the end, there is sentence equivalence. Now this section was the most straightforward section, I would say, as per your vocabulary is concerned. So you will need to understand English words and their synonyms and antonyms and what matches what and all of that. So this would, this is the most straightforward part of all the 3 sections. Now for the quantitative reasoning, there are again sections. Now I think that most of you must have seen these type of questions in many of your tests. And so there is quantitative comparison questions, wherein you need to fill in less than, greater than, equal to, and all those comparison operators. Then there are select one answer choice, as in one is correct out of many, then one or more is correct out of many, and then numeric entry, wherein you need to enter an integer into your answer. So these are pretty straightforward. There is nothing like vague in these questions, but again, you need a lot of practice to ace the speed part of the quantitative measuring. Yeah.
You scored 168 in the quantitative out of 170. So
Yeah.
where did you miss 2 marks?
That is true. I mean, as I would just, put it out there, that the GRE, the Graduate Record Examination, is a standardized test, which means that it is very achievable. You just need the right amount of practice, and I would say you need the right luck and the right mindset on that day too, because a lot depends on that. Even if you practice your the most, something might go wrong on that particular day. So I guess that happened, but then I was pretty sure about I was very confident about my math sections, but
you
then what happened
you
was,
are gold medalist in the DTU in mathematics, so you must be sure. Even other people are sure on you.
No, I mean, it is very easy, I would say. Even from personal experience, it is very easy to score full marks in the quantitative section. but like a difference of 1 or 2 mostly depends on that day, which I've come to realize. And yeah, so I might have lost some marks in, silly mistakes and calculative mistakes and all of that, but it is very achievable too. Even if you're not a math major, I would definitely, vouch for you getting full 170 out of 170 in your GRE quantitative, because it is very achievable and many people do that. You just have to be confident in yourself on that particular day.
She just said you must be confident, but I should tell you, you should be work really hard. She is gold medalist in mathematics, which she skipped in her introduction part as well. But I believe you should work really hard to get this much score in quantitative test. So my next question is, how should someone prepare for verbal reading? Because most of the students have loosen up their grip in English because they are not studying after 10th. Basically, even in 12th, 11th, 12th, they are not basically focused in English. So how should they prepare for it?
That is true. I would completely agree with you. Even for me, I had lost all my touch with English after my 12th standard. And when I had to give my GRE in, I would say, my third year, yeah, I was so lost. I did not know where to start, because the vocabulary section in GRE is very, I would say, high level as to what we have read. So you would need a lot of practice in that.
Was you into reading novel or something like that? That's why your English was good, or you prepared just after when you decided for English, GRE?
Yeah, no, a mix of both of these. I would say I was not very much into reading, but I read here and there. But then when I knew I had to give these standardized tests, even GRE and TOEFL, I started, regularly reading more and more articles and books and all of that, so that I get in touch I get back in touch with English. And also, it's not only about the vocabulary part, right? You have to answer the reading comprehension sections, the text completion sections. So therein, you need to be focused for long periods of time in reading English, which is not something I was doing for a long time in my undergrad. So I needed to read more and more articles and books just to increase my focus and increase my one sitting time into reading. So for your earlier question of verbal, how should one prepare for verbal reasoning? These are some of the resources that I quickly go through. And these are all free apps that I'm talking about. I took them for free, and these are very good, and these are, I would say, very exhaustive. These are wholesome in your preparation, and you should not require anything more than this if you have read these with full discipline, I would say. So there is one app called GRE Vocabulary Flashcards, and there is one called Vocabulary Builder Test. Both of these are very important. These are something that you should start with, because these are there is a, I don't know it's a myth or not, but there's a saying that you can ace GRE with 3,500 words that you learn. So there is a proper list, but these both apps actually cover most of the words that you will see in GRE. So this is something that you should start with, and it has very proper, uh, I would say that it has a very proper interface, and you will easily, even if you're not into English, even if you're not into reading, you will easily catch up words with both of these apps. So you should definitely take note of these. Next is getting a dictionary is very important, because you need to, as you're gearing up for your GRE, you need to be very attentive to new words that you see here and there. So you need to have a, on the go dictionary with you. I always kept this app in my phone, Dictionary Merriam-Webster, and I always looked up words which I did not know in the first go. And then one app that you can keep, but I don't think like it is necessary after the two apps that I said earlier. But Barron's 1100 is another very good app. It has a list of 1100 words that you can learn, and alphabetically. So you can keep days for A letter, you can keep days for B letter, and you can learn the words. And also try to engage those words that you learn, so that you can grasp those more easily. Yeah.
You use the phrase engage, because we can't remember the word by just reading them. So how can we engage with the words?
So I will not go into, the basic make sentences and stuff because that is so basic. But then one thing that you can do actually is when you're starting with your preparation of GRE and you're learning these words on the go, you should also practice the questions from some of the books that we are going to talk about. So you should also practice questions along with these. And when you will see words which you have learned from the apps in the practice questions, you will easily remember where they were used, right? So you will easily remember the context. You will easily remember in what type of phrases does GRE use those words. So you will be able to catch up better. Yeah.
Okay. So these four apps you have discussed, they are good enough for GRE verbal test.
For sure, for sure.
Okay.
For at least the vocabulary part. Yeah.
Okay. So our next question is, how should anyone prepare for quantitative test? Because everyone is not gold medalist in the math. So how should they prepare? And could you please share some resources for the quantitative test as well?
Yeah. So this is not going to be completely about quantitative test. We are going to talk about the test of the entire general test again. So these are some of the books that I followed. Now, other than the apps, you mostly need to follow only two books. I would only suggest following two books over those apps because those apps are something that you have to do very thoroughly. Now, these are the two books that I followed, like from top to notch, A to Z. I made sure that I did every test of these, and I also, even if I knew the structure of GRE, I also read the the overview of the structure and the overview of the content and how you should prepare and everything like that, because you never know, you might find some tips and some important points over there. So these are the two books that I followed: the official guide to the GRE general test by ETS itself, and the 5-pound book of GRE practice problems by Manhattan Prep. Now, you can easily find free PDFs on the web, but it is better if you actually purchase these books because these are, just an investment and these are going to help you in the test. And also, I believe in visual learning. So when I read a book, I know where I read the words and where I read the proper math formula in the book, so I can remember from the page itself. And so yeah, for quantitative reasoning part, you would not require, if you have read your till your 12th standard, you have read most of your math, you would not require much revision of the topics, but you would require a lot of practice. So these books provide a lot of practice. These have proper questions, and these have questions as per topic, as per the type of questions that are offered. So if you have completed these both books, you should be pretty good to go with the quantitative reasoning. One thing that I would suggest in quantitative reasoning is using timed tests to actually evaluate your performance. So you can put up a timer and you should decide that you have to solve these many questions in this much time. So that would actually compare your speed and accuracy, which is the highest point in your test. Now, other than these two books, practice questions are something that are very important. So you can also refer to these two other books, which are the official verbal reasoning and the official quantitative reasoning. These are something, I just found the PDFs of these books, and I went through these books for more and more questions. So once I was done with most of my revision part, and I was done with going through all the topics that were required, I just needed more questions. So I went through these books for extra questions, and this is something that is really helpful in the later end of your test, because in that time you only need to look at more questions and understand what topic are you lagging behind in. So for the quantitative reasoning, if you have done your official guide, if you have done your Manhattan, then the GRE quantitative reasoning practice questions can be something that you want to do, but it is not very compulsory. You can ace even without that. And you should one thing that you should remember is using timed test, using timed problems, and solving problems under pressure of time. Yeah.
How much time required to prepare for verbal reasoning as well as quantitative reasoning? Some people prepare only in the 2 months, and some prepare for 6 months or one
Yeah.
year. So what should be the range for a person? Means
I would say,
before giving the GRE, he should be prepare his mind. So that's why
yeah.
I'm asking this question.
That is true. I mean, this can vary from person to person, but then what from my personal experience, what I understood was I needed a lot of time to get back to reading English more and more, because as I said, the comprehensions in the GRE test are not like the basic English that you read. So I needed a lot of time in doing that, and for that I would say around 6 months prior to when I decided to give my GRE, I started reading more and more articles. So you can follow either some newspapers or some magazines and stuff like that on the internet, or you can use some science fiction novels. So why I'm saying science fiction is because the comprehensions in GRE are very, like, they have huge words, and they are on very rigorous topics. They're not like normal general essay like comprehensions. They are on research topics, some of them. So you would want to read something that requires you to focus a lot. So that is why I went with science fiction novels. I started reading Dan Brown, and I started reading online economics articles and stuff like that. So yeah, I required like 6 months prior to my GRE to actually start reading. But then I would say for most of the people, 2 months prior to the test should be a good time to give your commitment, your prior commitment to GRE preparation. So even like 2 months before, I'm not saying that give your entire day to it, because it does not require that. You can give either 2 to 3 hours to it every day for the 2 months prior to your test, and for the 2 weeks prior to your test you should give more, like 4 to 5 hours to your preparation, and other 3 hours to the practice test that you're gonna do. So that should be pretty sufficient, but it obviously it depends on person to person. If someone wants to revise most of the math, then he or she might require more time. If someone wants to take more time in vocabulary, so vocabulary is something that I was doing constantly through reading articles and stuff. But then for the Magoosh apps part and all of that, I kept it as a, I would say, recreation sort of a thing. Whenever I'm sitting idle, or whenever I'm free from my classes, I would take that app out and I would start revising words. So that you should take on the go. But then the rigorous training part, I think you should be fine in 1.5 or 2 months.
Guys, don't believe her advice of 2 months. She prepared herself for 6 months and she scored 157 only. So you are expecting 320 score. So you must be at around uh, targeting 160 in English. And she herself gave 6 months. So trust her
That
experience
is,
rather than her advice.
no, that is true. And also, I felt like, as I said before, it also depends on that day. So for the verbal reasoning part, I felt like I knew a lot of words, but I was not able to comprehend at that particular time on my screen, because I was so much under pressure. So don't just go with your uh, putting in a lot of hard work and all of that. Do practice tests, do all of that, but also don't feel like this is the last chance that you're ever gonna get. There are always second chances, and you should always not feel bad about yourself even if you don't get it in the first go, because this is just a standardized test and people tend to take it 2 or 3 times or 4 times, and it is just fine. No one's going to judge you on that. And it also depends on the day. So it does not mean, even if you have scored less than what you expected, it does not mean that you were not good or you did not prepare pretty well, but it also depends on the day. Yeah.
Someone has prepared for quantitative as well as the verbal reasoning. So is there any website which provide the mock test facility,
Yeah. So
free mock test? And one more thing I want to ask, if there is any website which gave the test for particular topic, like if someone is preparing for particular topic, he want to just check is he good enough for that topic or not.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. For the mock test parts, I would say definitely take the 2 mock tests that are provided by ETS itself. Both these tests are free, and these are the most similar to what you will get on that particular day to the actual test. So these are the two tests that you should definitely take. But then because these are so similar to the actual test, I would suggest you to take these two tests in the end of your preparation time. So probably once a week before the 2 weeks of your tests. But then other than this ETS part, there are many other free practice tests that you can get online by Manhattan, by Cap Test, Magoosh, Princeton Review. All these are very, these are the top players in creating content for GRE preparation. So you can definitely rely on these. And these also have separate question sections for both of these quantitative and verbal reasoning sections. So you can go there and select your section and then give the test for that particular section. So you can definitely do that. Also, if you're buying both the books of GRE General and the Manhattan Prep, those books also have some tests. But then the thing is that you will be giving it on paper, so that would be not very similar to what you will take on the actual day. But then they can be good in preparing you for the timed pressure, and they can be good for judging your topic wise preparation. And for these mock tests for the Manhattan or the Princeton review test, what I found was these were very I would say these were very different in their level of the test. These were, some I found were easier than the actual test, some were more difficult than the actual test, but you can definitely take them for sitting under a time bound test and then answering your questions, because that is very important for your GRE preparation. So but because these are not very similar to your GRE test, then I would suggest you to take these early on in your preparation, and then you can gauge your preparation according to that. And also, some people, I did not personally do this, but from what I've heard, some people actually take a mock test before starting their GRE preparation, so that they know where they lag behind, and that they know that this particular section does not require much work and this particular section requires more work than the other. So you can also do that, but that is not something like which is particularly required, so you can always skip that too. So these are some of the sites that offer free tests, and these are very good to go, but take the ETS tests when you are very near to your actual test.
So my next question is, most of the students are very confused, like when should we start preparing for GRE? Some wait for the end of their graduation, some start preparing only after second year itself. So what should be the perfect time to start preparation for GRE or to take the GRE itself?
Yeah. So if you're someone like me, if you're directly applying for graduate school when you're in your undergrad and you're not taking a gap year for working or for other stuff, then you would have to apply for graduate school in your 7th semester if you have an 8th semester degree program. So I applied in my 7th semester, and most of the deadlines are till November, December, or January. So you want your tests to be done by October or November. That is the last month, right? So personally, I suggest this to everyone, even the juniors who talk to me about taking GRE. So I suggest you to take your GRE in the semester prior to the semester that you want to apply to. So I took my GRE in my 6th semester when I had to apply in my 7th semester. So that gave me a good period of analyzing my results, analyzing my score, and analyzing whether or not I need to take the GRE again to enhance my application. And it would give you apt time to actually prepare again and then take your GRE again if you're not satisfied with your first time. And even if you are satisfied, then you're well and good, you're done with your test and you can focus on the other parts of the application. And if you're someone who is not willing to go to graduate school directly after your undergrad, or you are taking some years for working or industrial jobs or research positions, then you can anyways take your GRE in your undergrad, which should be a good option for most of the people, because that is the time that we're most, acquainted with studying and with practicing and with giving tests and all of that. I feel like once you go into the work world in industrial jobs, you lose a touch with studying. So you can anyways give your GRE in that period, because the GRE score is valid till 5 years and your TOEFL score is valid till 2 years. So if you're someone like that, you can still give your GRE in your undergrad. And for the most part, I would say, even if you are willing to take GRE earlier than your sixth semester even, then you should be good, given that you're giving most of your time in preparation. So you should not compromise on preparation just because you think that you want to give it one time before, and then you would want to see whether you have scored properly or not, and then give it another go. But because that is not, the correct way to go personally, because it takes a lot of money. First thing, it takes a lot of preparation and a lot of resources, in just simple terms. So take the test one time and give it your entire, go, give it your all, and then see whether you've performed properly or not. So going back to your question about, the time of preparation that one needs. So first, one needs to be very sure of when they want to take the test. So I personally, I guess I registered around December or January for my April test. So you can always look for
So means
closer dates too.
you have registered in your fifth semester itself.
Yeah, at the end of my fifth semester.
Okay.
Because I was going to take it in my sixth semester. And you can look for closer dates too. Even if I apply right now, I might get a date of 2 months after this. But then it is always, better to apply way before the actual test date, so that you get a date according to your, your needs and your requirements. And most of the slots, get filled up very quickly, so you would want to do that. And I applied like 4 to 5 months prior to my April test, and I would not say that I started studying for it in December, January itself. But then, yeah, if you have it in your mind, then you would obviously take steps towards it. Even small steps would count much. So you will start to take vocabulary tests. And as I said, the Magoosh apps and all of that, these are very much on the go, and you can easily read from that. So yeah, if you have it in your mind and you've already registered for your test, then you should, you can definitely start preparing and work for it.
As Kashvi mentioned, most of the colleges deadline are in October, November, and you have also need time to preparing for your SOP and search for a particular colleges where you want to go. What are their eligibility criteria and everything. So it would be better to, if you want to apply for the next session, means like if you want to apply next year August session, so in November you have to submit your score, GRE score, and you have to submit your SOP. So it would be better if you have taken or completed your GRE at the time of May, June or July. It would be better. So even that, in case if your score is not good enough, you can take GRE again. What score is considered as a good score for GRE, MS as well as for PhD?
I believe that, as I said, even in the last talk that we had, GRE score and TOEFL score, these have very different notions in different people and different, according to different websites even. Some say that these are just qualifiers, some say that these are tiebreakers, but we don't really know for sure. But then there is always, a safe mark, I would say, from what I have read during my preparation. I would say ask you to at least go for a 320 or 325, and then you should be good to apply to the top universities. But then again, even if you have scored less than this, there is always a chance of compensating the lower score with other, achievements in your profile, and vice versa. So there is no like a threshold score below which you can't get in somewhere. But then again, this is always, you know, a feather in the cap, I would say, that you can add to your application. And this is, I will keep repeating myself that this is a very achievable test. And this is a standardized test, which means that you can achieve a good score in this with the proper amount and direction of preparation. So, yeah.
A GRE score is also one of the factor about the funding for your MS or PhD.
Right. So, at least for the PhD part, I know that most of the PhDs are fully funded, um, and you can get teaching assistantships in your masters, which are on-campus jobs. But from what I've read, there is a threshold, there is a minimum score on your TOEFL for getting a teaching assistantship. So you need to have some proper score in your speaking section or your entire the cumulative TOEFL score for getting a teaching job on campus. But there many, like none of the universities that at least I applied to or looked to mentioned a threshold GRE score below which they will not take in students. So I don't think that this is, you know, a proper requirement for getting funding in your university, because it mostly depends on campus jobs that it is offering for your particular program, and you can definitely apply for it even after you get in your program and after shifting there and after, you know, spending one semester on all of that. So you should definitely check this out on the website of the university that you're planning to apply. But then for the GRE and TOEFL part, from what I have read, TOEFL gives you, you know, a more solid threshold and a more solid cutoff for the jobs part, but there is no such cutoff for the GRE. But then again, as I said, at least for your applications part, this is something that you would want to have look good on your application. So you should always work on your score.
To apply for TA, you a person should have good TOEFL score as well. So,
Yeah.
what score should be considered as a good score for TOEFL?
So I would say that this question differs from the GRE and TOEFL point of view, because many universities actually mention a cutoff for TOEFL, as in you need to have this much score in your speaking section or this much overall score to actually apply there, which is mostly around 90 to 95. But then some universities also have a cutoff score of 100. So you would want to go to the university's website to check this out, to check the cutoff out, and then work according to that. But then I would say that anything above 110, which is 110 out of 120, should be well enough. And you should always aim for a 25 above score in your speaking section, because that is what the cutoff of most of the universities is. So your speaking section matters the most. And for the TOEFL preparation part, I would just quickly go through you know, the 4 sections. So there is reading, there is listening, speaking, and writing. The reading and writing are mostly like GRE, and these are, I would say, at least from what I understood, these are a level down from the GRE. So if you have done your GRE preparation thoroughly, then you should be pretty good in your TOEFL preparation. But then the 2 sections that you want to work on are listening and speaking, because these were not included in the GRE, and you would want to actually take some you know, you should take some online practice sessions on both of these sections so that you get a hang of what this entails. And yeah, there are again some free apps and some free resources on the web too, which will help you do that. And it should be pretty it should be a smooth rail. But yeah, and as similar to GRE, TOEFL also depends a lot on that particular day. For me, I found it very difficult on the TOEFL day to actually give my speaking section, because all of the people in the entire room were giving their speaking sections together. So we were just shouting in our mics, and we were not able to listen to our own voice. And yeah, so it became a chaos, a ruckus, and we were so confused. And I think I totally, you know, flunked my speaking section, but thank God I received a good score, a decent score. And even for the listening part, it can be a little, hard to manage. And I remember in my TOEFL test, we are given a pencil in both the GRE and TOEFL, right? So if the pencil blunts out, you have to call the invigilator and ask for a different pencil. So in my TOEFL test, I remember the listening part, you need to listen to the comprehension and you need to make down notes, and then you need to answer some questions. So I was writing so furiously that my pencil broke. So the listening part was going on. So you cannot repeat the listening part. So my pencil broke, and I just raised my hand for a different pencil. Please give me a pencil, please. And the comprehension was playing on. So I was just making mind notes for the entire listening part, and they did not listen to my request for a different pencil. And most of my listening section was through my mind. I just made mind notes for most of my so yeah, anything can happen on that day, and nothing is under your control. So yeah, the least you can do is prepare well for your test and go with full confidence and believe in yourself.
Before your this experience, I don't think anyone was ready for this kind of situation, even yourself.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, we never go into a test thinking that something uncontrollable like this can happen. So listening part especially, I was really I would say scared about the listening part, because you have to listen to the entire, so these are not like basic conversations, these are some good conversations that you need to listen to very very focused, in a focused way. So I used to make notes in all the practice sessions that I took. I used to make notes of the listening sections, but then in the actual test, my pencil broke in the middle of the comprehension, and I kept my hand raised up, right? I kept my left hand raised up, and I wasn't able to write, so I was just listening to what they were saying, and I was making mind notes so that I can actually answer some questions. But yeah, thankfully everything went well in the end. So anything can happen, obviously.
So now
Okay.
Kashvi is sharing some useful resources for the TOEFL as well. So you can start studying from these resources for free as well. So please,
Yeah.
Kashvi, tell us about it.
Yeah, as I said that if you've prepared, religiously for your GRE, then you would not want, more rigorous preparation for TOEFL as well. But these are some of the resources that you can anyways go through and get a sense of what the TOEFL expects as a test. So I only, for other than the apps that I mentioned for the GRE, I only did this app for the TOEFL, and these had many like easier words than the GRE apps, but then it is a good sense of actually what the level of TOEFL is. So this is the TOEFL English vocabulary cards, again by Magoosh. It is free, and you can always play with it whenever you are free or bored. And these are again with a beautiful interface. These are like flashcards, and you can remember the words and the usage and everything. Other than that, this is the official guide to the TOEFL test. So similar to the official guide to the GRE, this has all that the TOEFL test entails. And the best thing is it also comes with a CD. So if you are buying the book, then you're good enough. But from what I recall, I think I forged off a PDF from the internet, and I somehow got the CD, the setup software of the CD too. So I was able to access the few free tests. There are 3 full-length TOEFL practice tests included in the CD. So you can always go through that. And these are, the most similar tests that you will find online to the actual TOEFL test. So this is something that you should definitely want to look at. And you should definitely practice your speaking and listening through these tests. Now, other than these, for the most part, I referred this website, which is the TST Prep, TOEFL Solutions for Open Minds. And this has a lot of free TOEFL resources. So when you click down the free TOEFL resources tab, you will see a lot of resources like the some words that you should know for TOEFL, or some writing essays topics that you should know for TOEFL, and you have those lists which you can definitely prepare. And you can also, I guess, you also have access to some listening or speaking tests here, but then I would say that it is always manageable through your the official CD and through some online resources. So these are the very basic things that you will require on top of what you have read in your GRE. So I would not say if you're only preparing for your TOEFL, I would not say that this is enough. You can obviously look for more resources online and enhance your vocabulary better. But then if you have done your GRE preparation, then this should be more than enough for your TOEFL preparation.
Listening and speaking are quite different than GRE. So that's why these resources are required.
Yeah, that is true. And those two sections, I guess, are the most, difficult sections in the TOEFL, because this is not something that we've done before. You will need to listen to people talking, conversations and lectures, professor lectures in a class and all of that, and you will need to make notes, and then you would have to answer questions on the basis of that. So again, as similar to GRE, these questions can be a little tricky as to what they're expecting out of you in the form of an answer. So this is many times I found myself thinking of a different answer, but then the GRE gave different answer, and I finally understood that there was a pattern in the answers that they were expecting. So the same can happen in the TOEFL as well, and that is why a lot of practice is required through practice tests. Yeah.
Link of all the resources we have shared in the description. You can just go through the description to follow the link. So thank you, Kashvi. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you for a nice session.
Thank you so much.
You are really a wonderful person.
Thank you so much.
जल्दी से जाओ मिशिगन, फिर वहाँ का एक्सपीरियंस शेयर करना.
बिल्कुल. Thank you so much, Shara. Bye.
Bye.